Hi, Winning Women. Welcome, welcome. This is our expert interview this week with the amazing Julie Willis, who I've known through Winning Women for probably, 3 years now, Julie?
Yeah, I reckon so, yeah.
Yeah, you used to come to our meetings, didn't you, before you got crazily busy over lockdown?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So just a little prelim. These are interviews that I'm holding virtually every week. No one was booked last week. We didn't have one last week. But next week is Janie Lee Grace, who's I had one of her health books probably 15 years ago. She was one of the first people to start writing about things like coconut oil and homeopathy. And she's got her Janie Loves Awards, which are just closing today. I got an email about that today. And she's on the Steve Wright show in the afternoon as well. She's been on there for about 15 years. And what you might not know is she was a backing singer with Wham back in the day. And this is why I've got her talking about coming out in the spotlight, because for her it's something natural, and for a lot of us it really isn't. So we've got her talking about that, but we'll probably get her back next year to talk about something else. So when she's on there, we can take some questions. But it's the same with all of you. There's 52 weeks a year, so that's 52 amazing interviews. Right, and these are all stored in the guide section on the page. So we've probably got about 8 in there so far. Go to the guide section and you'll find all the interviews, and I will find a way of putting the programme of what's coming up as well. I think we're booked up to about the middle of September. Right, Julie, welcome.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Now we're here to talk about your work with the lightning process, aren't we? So tell us what the lightning process is and who it helps and how you got into it.
Okay, so the lightning process is a 3 consecutive day training program. And we work with the mind-body connection, and we work with your neurology. And often it's for people that are stuck with symptoms that they've tried everything else, and often we're the last port of call, and the people we work with are pretty desperate. They've been everywhere, and often very long-term sick people. And we take you through the science of the brain, the science of your neurology and neuroplasticity, and how that affects your physical body. And we teach you about placebos, we teach you about the importance of beliefs, the stories you tell yourself, and then we teach you a very specific tool to shift that neurology and move out of the symptoms that you're actually stuck in. So it could be for energy if you're having fatigue, it could be for sleeping well, it could be for being calm, calming the nervous system down, getting out of our own way so that our body can be well. Because often we're our own worst enemy. We don't mean to be, it's not intentional, but we get stuck with certain patterns. And physically then that affects our body and keeps the symptoms going long term. Right. So why I came to the lightning process was my husband had been sick for 23 years. When my daughter was, just after my daughter was born, we'd been married 5 years, he just got so sick that he couldn't work anymore and was under the local hospital, which is Norwich, the Norfolk Norwich Hospital at the time, and was diagnosed with ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and something called POTS, which is where you get a very rapid heartbeat for no reason, especially when you change your posture, when you stand up. And he was on, heavy beta blockers, all sorts of drugs. And that continued for 23 years, couldn't walk, couldn't go out for a walk with the family, was in bed a lot of the time, chronic pain, chronic tiredness, terrible headaches. Just a very, very sick man for 23 years. And we literally tried everything. He ended up under King's College Hospital for all sorts of the tropical medicine department, because it was like a mystery. What is this? What's happened here? So a friend of my daughter's had done the lightning process and posted something online about it for ME, and that she got well. And so I messaged her and she said, "Don't wait, do it next week, don't wait." So literally he did, and got well immediately and was back to work the following week, and just hasn't looked back. And that was 7 years ago. And so I just thought, I've got to train to do this and help people get their husbands or their sons or their wife or their daughter back, because you really do feel like you get them back. It's like they come back to life. And I was also already a business coach for Lloyds Bank for many years, did lots of coaching courses. So I already had the coaching side. So I then had to go to London and train for 3 years to become a lightning process practitioner. So that's what brought me to the lightning process.
Fantastic. How wonderful. Right, I'm just going to say to anyone who's watching, we've got 4 people watching, Julie. Would you like to just pop your name? We don't know who you are unless you've introduced yourself to StreamYard. And so if you'd just like to put in the chat who's watching, and if you feel free to put any questions in for Julie, we've got 30, 40 minutes here. We've got loads of time. Just write what your name is, because we probably know who you are anyway. You can stay anonymous if you want to, but we'd love to know who's watching. That's the only thing with StreamYard. You have to introduce yourself to it. And just to say, I heard about the lightning process probably, how old are the children? 6 or 7 years ago. I had a reflexology client who came to me, and she had a son who basically spent 10 years in bed, literally in bed. He'd start doing a tiny bit and then he'd crash again. And I had another client called Jessica, and she had ME from when she was 8. And one day Jessica, who'd been coming to me for 20 years, said to me, I think you know my boyfriend. And she got together with James because I knew he'd gone off to do something. I'd lost touch with his mum by then. And he'd been taken out, I think, by ambulance. And he had 2 years of treatment, part of which was the lightning process. And by the time he met Jessica, he was training to be a surveyor. He was working part-time at Domino's, and he was studying. And they got married, and they've got 2 kids, and he's been commuting to London for years. So this is my personal experience of the lightning process, which was making me so excited, having known people and known they had zero quality of life. And he said to me one day, one of the girls he'd been in hospital with had taken her own life. There's nothing to work for her. So this is big stuff, isn't it? And when you said that it was working with people with long COVID, you told me this about a year ago. It was, oh my goodness, but it's the same symptoms, isn't it, often?
Absolutely. Lots of people with ME start off with what they call post-viral syndrome. It could be from glandular fever or a bad flu or just a cold even. And, you know, once it goes 3 to 6 months, they don't want to, a lot of the doctors, they're loath to give them the chronic fatigue diagnosis because then it kind of seems long term. But yeah, post-viral syndrome is a thing up to about 6 months, and then it's chronic fatigue syndrome or ME. And you're right, with the long COVID period, it was kind of for us, we've done some research papers now on it and done a research project because we're having the same results with long COVID, which is just fantastic.
How wonderful. And just to say, we've got Julie Derrick watching, and I think Julie said her husband has chronic fatigue. And we've got Regina watching. I don't know about Regina, but feel free to put any comment. Thank you for putting that in, ladies. That's appreciated. Feel free to pop any questions in. We've got 6 people watching. How lovely. So who can benefit from this, Julie? Tell us a bit more. Is it just people with chronic fatigue, or tell us who comes to you and how they find you?
Yeah, it's for anyone who's stuck, tried everything and is stuck. So I work with a lot of teenagers with anxiety. Earlier in the year, I was working for a lot around with teenagers, anxiety over exams, because obviously they've lost a lot of school. Some of them were anxious because they've been at home and then they were worried about mixing in, or a lot of young people, either with ME, chronic fatigue, anxiety. But also I've worked with youngsters for young as 12 with OCD. I've worked with people with labyrinthitis where they can't stand up without getting so dizzy they're sick. All sorts of things. So it's not just, we're well known for chronic fatigue because quite a few famous people and it's on the lightningprocess.com website, quite a few, Esther Rance and her daughter, all sorts of people, all sorts of famous people on there. That one of the, I can't remember his name, one of the teachers, the choreographers on Strictly Come Dancing, he did the lightning process for chronic fatigue, so his stories on the web, so we're quite well known for that because it is sort of a miraculous thing, because they say, oh, there's no known cure, on Wikipedia or the WHO, so it's a neurological condition with no known cure. And when people do get well in 3 days, it kind of goes against the grain in this miraculous. So so all sorts of things, it benefit. It's like a tool for life, it's a tool for life. You can use it on anything. So that people say, well, how can you treat all these conditions with one thing. Well, we're working on your brain, which is the thing that's running your body. It's not your mind, it's your brain. Your brain is a physical thing which physically connects to your body and runs what's happening. So we teach you how to change your brain, basically, and get out of those stuck neurological patterns and make better, more useful ones. So it can work on everything, basically.
So can you tell me, if you can't answer this, but it'd be lovely to have a little indication. Julie actually says her husband's got chronic fibromyalgia.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, working as a therapist for many years, I worked with a lot of people with fibromyalgia, and I had to treat them so gently, because otherwise you could just push them too far and they'd really have a pain crisis, which could last a long time. And people would say they'd been for a massage and they were really ill afterwards, and they enjoyed it at the time, but then they were just wiped for weeks. So tell us a little bit more. I mean, how would you help someone with something like that, just to give us a bit more perspective?
So if you think fibromyalgia, it's there's no pain receptors in the body, they're all in the brain. Okay. If you have a broken leg or you cut yourself, there's a reason for the pain. Okay, that you physically have an injury. With fibromyalgia, I mean, there may be inflammation, a lot of people have inflammation and no pain. So basically your brain is telling your body there's pain, and often it's not at all about a physical thing. Okay, it's your brain stuck. And it's almost like with neuroplasticity, it's like it's a memory of pain that isn't there anymore. So stress could cause that, or an illness where you never get better. Repetitive thoughts, often I find, in my experience, people with fibromyalgia are often really, really horrible to themselves in their head. Very judgmental, very hard on themselves. It's a typical profile. And when you keep going, you're an idiot, you're stupid, you're not good enough, your brain and your body thinks, your brain and your body are constantly checking in with each other. Are we okay? Are we okay? What's going on here? Do we need more of this? Do we need more of that? And when you keep with the repetitive, not so nice things to yourself, your body just, no, we're not okay. It's not okay. We're in danger. Something's wrong. Something's terribly wrong. So it could be a stressful event. It could be, it doesn't really matter what starts the cause of fibromyalgia, but it could be a very stressful time you go through. It could be a car accident. It could be an illness. I don't know, something. And your brain just gets stuck in this, something's wrong. And we get what we call dysregulation. So the chemistry between the brain and the body gets dysregulated. So the muscles to your joint, the messages to your joints, your muscles, your sinews, it's like almost like a drunk conversation between your brain and body. So with a healthy person, there's brilliant messages getting through. Yep, my legs are good. We need a little bit of oxygen in this muscle. This is simplifying it. But when you get stuck in this pattern, it's as if, it's like a Formula One pit stop happening, changing the tyre, and everyone's drunk. It's never going to happen because you have to communicate. You have to get it done quickly. You have to, and it's literally like a drunk conversation because the neurochemicals are all out. So it's the messaging between the two. So we look very much about, how you view yourself. What messages are you giving yourself? What stories are you telling yourself, about a situation, about other people, about your illness? That has a huge influence on your physical health, a huge influence. And it's being studied all the time, and more is being known about this. And we look at that. We call this upstream things in your brain, and it has downstream consequences, which chronic pain often is this nagging voice in your head of not being good enough, not being, being a bit of an idiot, and you criticize yourself and you look for everything being wrong. The other thing with chronic pain is the minute you wake up, you'll check your body. How much pain have I got? Same with anxiety. How much anxiety have I got? We'd never go, how calm am I? Or how comfortable is my body? We'd never use that language. It was always about pain. It would always be about anxiety. So we're constantly checking our body to look how brains work. And we do a very interesting exercise on this in the lightning process, very practical, to show you that what you look for, you find. And you just don't notice. So I often say to people, the tip of your ear there, like people in chronic pain say, this little bit here, this tiny bit of skin here, how comfortable is that? And I'll get you to focus on that. And you're teaching your brain, or your little toe, the nail on your little toe, the quick that comes out, that tiny bit there, how comfortable is that? So we change the language around your body. And they start to concentrate on that instead of, oh, my legs are burning or my head's hurting. And so when we're doing this, we're stuck in this loop because we are instructing our body for illness. We don't mean to, because we don't know how to get out of it. It's not, never blame anyone because you haven't got the tools yet. So it's just little tricks like that, using the word comfort instead of pain, using the word calm instead of anxiety. Out of 10, if you go to a pain clinic, out of 10, how much pain have you got? Not out of 10, how much comfort have you got? So language is so relevant because the words we say in our brain run our body completely. So I hope that's useful.
Yeah, and Julie's just said that's her husband to a T, and he's had years of extreme stress from his business and he's hard on himself. Yeah.
Right.
And what I'm hearing from the work I've been doing recently on mindset is it often isn't even your voice, is it? It's somebody else's voice.
Can be, yes.
That your brain absorbs. Because I remember when people came to me with fibromyalgia, there nearly always used to be some sort of trauma in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they'd almost forgotten about it, there was a point where something traumatic happened and the body had almost internalized it, hadn't it?
Exactly. And sometimes the traumas we don't even remember. And because we're English, because we just have to get on with it and we can't talk about our feelings, well, no, that's not a trauma because other people have got it worse than me. That wasn't really a trauma, but actually our body remembers it as a trauma. There's a book by an amazing doctor called Gabor Mate. The body, when the body says no, the body holds the score, all these kind of things. Your body will hold on to these things and you mentally might not accept that you've had a difficult time and want to just, no, I'm just going to get on with it. I'm not going to talk about it. Because we're very English, aren't we? Don't talk about our feelings. And this, I find, especially men, find it very difficult to do. But when you explain to people, actually, that's just a physical thing. It's not that it doesn't mean you're mentally ill or there's anything wrong with you or you're broken. This is just a physical thing. It's a message between your head, your brain and your body. It's a physical thing. And I say to people, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You don't need fixing. I just need to show you a different way to live, a different way to think. In fact, your brain's working too well. Let's say your brain's a bit of a superhighway. It's too efficient. We need to get that amazing efficiency to be doing some great stuff for you in your life instead of thinking you're broken, you need fixing. None of that, But they've been told for 20 years, maybe 30 years, some of the people I see, oh, you'll never get well. That's what I said to my husband, you'll never be well now. Because you're 33, and to get it at 33, if you was a kid, maybe you get well, but there's no cure, you'll never get well. So you believe it, and you live accordingly. You live half a life, not even half a life. So this is the reward of seeing people get their lives back and their families getting them back is just, I can't even tell you how passionate I am about this work because it is just such a privilege to give people their lives back. Amazing.
Yeah. Wonderful. So what's been your most rewarding client so far to work with? Tell us a story.
Yeah, I've had quite a few. Probably my second was a lady who'd had chronic fatigue for 37 years, local lady from Southend, and just got well straight away. And she's still like, I still can't believe it, tells all her friends. But one in June really struck me. She was a 17-year-old girl. And I was getting mixed up. It's the London Hospital Group, LCUH, is it? The London Central University Hospital. It's a group of 5 top hospitals, and they have this group, and they all pool their resources. And she'd been under them since she was 12, so for 5 years she's not gone to school. But the London Hospital, her mum was so fed up because she was having CBT, but it's all online because of what's happening. And her mum called an emergency meeting. Nothing's helping. She's 17 now. This has gone on long enough. So the top consultant at the London Hospital said, look, there's something that will definitely help. And I haven't told you about it before because there's a cost involved. And we like to try all the things that aren't going to cost you any money. But if your daughter does the lightning process, she will get well. And for me, this was so exciting because she was one of the top consultants at the EMEA clinic at one of the London hospitals. And she said, and when you get well, this is how positive she was. She said, come back for your follow-up appointment and tell us, because we need these stories to encourage other people. And the 17-year-old girl came on day one. Literally, I saw the shift. Kids are so easy to work with. And she literally hadn't, she the most she was doing physically, because they told her, however she felt, she had to stay in bed till 10 o'clock in the morning. And she said, but I get so bored. Sometimes I want to get up before that, but I wasn't allowed to get up. And I could do 2 10-minute activities a day. So one was a 10-minute walk with the dog, and one was 10 minutes of schoolwork. That's all she was allowed to do. Okay. So even if she was feeling better, and they call it pacing. So on the first day, she did a half an hour walk for the dog and went and watched her brother play cricket with her dad. On the second day, she came back and said, I've been swimming with my mum and a walk and shopping. And then on a week follow-up, she'd been around Bluewater for 5 hours with her mum. And her mum said, I have to admit to you, to her daughter, every nice thing I've done since you were 12 for 5 years, I've had terrible guilt about because you're not with me. And so she's 17, and she's got a life back. So I'm planning my university, I'm going to do my A-level. And on our first follow-up, I said to her, do you need to have this follow-up? Because we don't need to talk about how ill you've been. You just want your life. You just want to go and live your life. She said, I don't really want any follow-ups because I just want to get on with it now. And that was it. She's gone and got a nice life. And for me, one, because it's a young girl, but two, because being recommended by that UCLH, I always get it mixed up. I have quite a few. UCLH, the London Hospital, 5 London Hospital. To have someone recommended by the top consultant and be so positive about it, that's what really helped her believing it. And then she'll go back and she's going to catch up and tell us when she's had her appointment. So for me recently, that was, thrilling, absolutely thrilling.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I think it's the other thing, as a money coach, we always sort of say, don't get in someone's pocket and assume they can't or won't pay for things. And I've had GPs scared of referring people to me for bone therapy and massage because they thought they might judge if it didn't work for that person. So there's a funny old thing there, isn't there? But if you're that desperate, people will help you out, won't they? Or you'd fundraise that money, wouldn't you?
Exactly. And the mum said, why didn't you tell us this 5 years ago? Because the lighting process has been going for 20 odd years. Why didn't you tell us 5 years ago? And they said, well, it's not our policy, but when it gets to the crisis point like this and you've really tried everything, we kind of but this poor girl, can you imagine a 17-year-old not been allowed to get out of bed till 10, even if she felt all right? And we just tipped it all on its head and just changed it all. So, yeah, I mean, I loved her. She was fantastic. But kids are so easy to work with because they've got no baggage. They're fabulous.
Exactly. So let's just ask these ladies who are watching what questions they've got. We've got 5 people watching, and then I'm going to ask you. So if somebody's got what's called long COVID, how do you? Yeah. What happens there? That's quite current, isn't it, for some people?
It is, yeah. So I've had a lot of inquiries and gone through it with a lot of people with the training. It's very similar because I think even worse with this because of the fear around one having COVID itself, and then the fear of when you've got it for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and your symptoms, some symptoms might go, but others stay. I think the fear around the illness as well, even most of the people, it's one guy who's in his 60s, but most of the people have actually been 20-somethings who haven't been able to go back to work and frightened of losing their jobs. So they tend to seek help quicker than the ME people because there's not clinics set up to help them. So they look for answers quicker because they don't want to be losing their jobs and whatever. So I think the fear around long COVID really, really plays a huge part in their beliefs around just COVID in general, really. Because obviously, it's a serious thing. But again, it's the fatigue. The things that I've found is the fatigue, the brain fog is huge. But it's just like a virus. It's just post-viral, isn't it? Same as all the other post-viral things I deal with. So the fatigue, the brain fog. Some pain tends to be more chest rather than legs, and long muscles is more the chronic fatigue. But again, they've just got stuck in the loop. So we just do exactly the same stuff. And and the thing is, we're not saying, that's not a physical thing. It is a physical thing, but we change your brain, you change your physiology. So physically you change because you're changing your biochemistry. So, you're stuck in the loop and you're feeling rubbish. And we teach you how not to feel rubbish. And we very much go, okay, here's where you are. Now we need to move forward. So how do you want to feel? Well, I want energy. I want my brain to be clear. So we're not talking about the symptoms, because negative wants, your brain will just hear pain, brain fog, blah, blah, blah. But how do you want to feel? So I want clear thinking, crystal clear thinking. I want to have energy to last the day. So, it might be a calm energy, might be a buzzy energy, might be a physical sort of exercise energy. What type of energy do you want? And we work on that. So it's very much about what you want, not what you don't want. And we just work the same, but we were all quite fascinated to start working with these people last year. And again, you just see some with people, you just see the change. You just see it. They stand different. Their faces look lifted. You've probably seen it, Rose, but you're a therapist. Suddenly you see that penny drop and it's like, oh, you're back. You're back. And, our bodies always want to get to homeostasis, always want to get to the rest and digest type, healing mode, but we just keep standing in the way, getting in the way. Oh no, I'm sick. I've been sick for so long. I'm never going to get better. Brain. And the body goes, oh my God, this ain't wrong. And it produces the symptom. So again, we give them confidence and say, look, you have an immune system. This virus, you've got over it mainly. You're just left with these few bits. Let's sort them out. And it's boosting people, getting their story around it much more useful, boosting their confidence in their immune system, in their cells, in their abilities to be well. If you used to run 10 miles a day, your body, your body can do that. You want to do that again, let's work towards that. So with long COVID, it's familiar territory, to be honest.
Yeah. Brilliant. Because I guess even with things like lung damage, if you get the brain out of the way and get it working positively, there's absolutely no reason why the body can't heal itself, is there?
No, exactly. We give it its best body. I mean, I have had a guy who he's got very, very damaged lungs, and it shows up on a CT scan. So often these people with lung problems, it doesn't show up at all on a scan because it's microabrasions. So they've got more chance of kind of, this guy, his lungs are just black basically. But what he wanted help with the lightning process for was, he was so frightened to stand up because he carried oxygen everywhere with him. How he was 3 months on a ventilator in the height of it, in hospital for 7 months, again in UCLH hospitals, who are amazing. I must say, they are fantastic. They give them psychologists, because being ventilated for 3 months is terrible psychologically. He's had a lot of support. He's got all the support groups. But he wanted help with fear of walking to the bathroom. Wow. And his goal was to be able to go out in an electric wheelchair with his wife, out in the real world with his oxygen there. And we worked on that. So we're not saying, you've got half your lungs have been eaten away by COVID, we're going to give you new lungs. We're not going to do that. But for someone like that, we can still raise his quality of life. He's still getting all the medical help he needs, but he then could walk up the stairs with his oxygen because we prepared his brain in advance. We practiced it in his brain that it all went well and he felt great. By the time he got out of bed, by the time we were finished, he was not in bed all the time. He could walk up the stairs with his line of oxygen. It has to run all through the house. And he was then planning to buy his electric wheelchair. We visualised him out in the summer, hand in hand, because I don't want her behind me, I want her beside me. So we look like a couple, And so with his reduced abilities, he could still have a good quality of life, but he just needs to get his brain out of the way and in a useful state. So, we're not saying we're going to cure all ills. We don't make stupid claims like that. With chronic fatigue, we can, it seems crazy because everyone says you can't. But, there are people that have permanent damage to things, but we can make their life so much more than they thought possible. And that's still so rewarding, I just meet some amazing people. He was so inspirational to me, that guy, what he'd been through. And then the next follow-up, he's sitting up in bed on his laptop. And I went, oh, okay, so what are you doing? He said, I've been offered 2 hours work a day with my old firm, and I can work from home. And so he's working, but he didn't think that was possible because his brain was like, oh, I'm right off, And so he's working again. He's out with his wife, side by side, that little couple in the summer, having a nice summer. So yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Wow, and that can feel like a complete miracle, can't it, when you're
absolutely, yeah.
Question from Julie, Derek: are the sessions carried out in person or are they online?
So at the moment, it was only in person up until the COVID thing. And then we had to pass exams to do it on Zoom because we have to do a slideshow to show you all the science, but we want to keep it lively, so we had to prove that we weren't boring. Basically, we could hold people's attention. So it's worked so well online that I'm just staying online now, because this means that before you're having quite sick people having to travel, stay over somewhere, come into the room where you're working, but now they don't have to travel. I'm working with people from all over the UK now. It doesn't matter, the location doesn't matter, so I can help more people by keeping online. And it works just so well. It's not boring. Even the most ME type person, makes it through the 3 hours and picks up their energy, and because you start to feel better straight away. So so online at the moment is we just need a laptop or a large iPad and a really good internet connection, and a room with room behind you, because we do move about the room, and we talk about posture, and so it's not boring. It's a very interesting seminar, but at the moment I'm just running all online because it's working so well, and I can see myself staying online, to be honest.
Excellent. So somebody's come a bit late. Where are you based? You're in Southend-on-sea, aren't you?
Southend, yep.
Yeah, and do listen back. There's lots of brilliant information in the last half hour. And Regina says, how does the referral process work?
The referral process from a GP or something like that, or from a medical person? Is that what? Yeah. That at the moment in the UK, there's no referral in that the NHS will pay for it. I think some private medical insurance people will give you a certain amount towards alternative therapies, and it is counted as an alternative therapy. So I think if you've got private medical, but there are no, they may refer in that they recommend it, but you still have to pay for it, because the NHS, I mean, how much money per ME person or chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia person would the NHS sell if they sent them to the lighting process and got them well in 3 days and never had to see them again? But we're not at that point yet. We're working on it. And the guy, Dr. Phil Parker, who's a PhD scientist who invented the lighting process and trains all of us personally, and we have to update the training all the time with him. He lectures to the NHS pain clinics. He works with the Olympic team medics. He's pretty well-known guy. He's sort of a public figure, really. So he's well known to the NHS, and a lot of people, respect the work and everything. But any change in the NHS to treatments or protocols take a lot of years, really. But we're plugging away.
Or just having one senior consultant at UCLH is massive, isn't it?
Well, exactly. That she's recommending people, so that's fantastic. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. Wonderful. Okay, any more questions, ladies watching? Well, we got Julie here. I used to say that I found myself saying this to someone the other day. I used to work with a really amazing physio. She retired when she was 70, and I worked with her as her kind of massage reflexology Bowen therapist for about 10 years. And she referred me a lady who had constant pain in her hands. And this was that thing, she'd had an injury and her brain still thought she had. Mm-hmm. And she advised me then, she said, no, never ask her how she is. Always ask her what she's been up to. And it was the best thing ever. And I found myself saying that to someone who got, I don't know if it was a parent or someone who was, that kind of thing.
Yeah. The whole world seems set up. The whole world, we do a whole section on day one on language and useful language and not so useful language, and how to speak in a more useful way and think in a more useful way. And then you start noticing everybody's language around you, like on the media and politicians, and a lot of sick people do get stuck in the neurology of language around, what's wrong, looking for what's wrong, looking for trouble, and it's not their fault. It's just the whole world's set up like that. But once you show someone a different one, they're like, yeah, that's so true, and then they start noticing everybody else around them. But it's like I say, we'd never say, well, how fabulous do I feel? Well, as soon as you open your eyes, how fabulous out of 10? How fabulous do I feel? It's always like, oh, well, my leg hurts a bit, and I feel a bit of that anxiety. We're looking for the problem all the time. We're just training our brain to find it, which is so fascinating to me.
Yeah, and this is what I've been doing from a perspective about coaching, about our emotions.
Yes.
And how we feel about our business and ourselves. And that's exactly what I've been doing with the mindset mentor who I interviewed, Liz, for the last sort of 14 weeks. So Regina, on average, how many sessions does one need, and roughly the cost, please, Julie?
So it's a 3-day seminar. So we'll do a discovery call, which is just, free discovery call for anyone who wants it. Then everybody who's even considering the training listens to a 4-hour audiobook of Dr. Phil Parker explaining the science behind it. And he also interviews people with whatever you've got, because it's all different for all different things. So you listen to that to understand what the commitment is. You can't just go in it half-hearted. You can't say, I'll give it a try. And then after you've listened to that audiobook, we do an assessment call to see if you're ready. We only want people coming on the train that are completely like, yeah, this is going to change my life. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to give it my all. Because we don't want our huge success rates to fall by just taking on people that aren't committed. So we have an assessment, and I let you know if you're ready for the training or you need more coaching around your mindset about it. And then if you're ready to go ahead, we do the 3. So it's 3 consecutive mornings, normally about 10 till 1 for a one-to-one. I only do either one-to-ones, which most people seem to want, or I do groups of 2 or 3 online. The group price is £650, and the one-to-one price is £950. So you get 3 days training, and you get 3 separate hourly coaching sessions. The first and second one I kind of do week 1, week 2, and the third one you can save up if you want it, or have it on week 3. So that's all all of the training material and books that you need for it. There's online graduate support, there's graduate newsletter, a graduate download. So you've got a lot of online support groups. You can talk to other people who've done it. So the whole package is $950 one-to-one or $650 in a group.
Well, that's extremely modest for getting your life back, isn't it?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
When my husband did it, he hadn't worked for 23 years. We had no money, but we scraped it together because we were so excited. And he'd said at that point, I'm not going to try anything else because I just get disappointed. But when my friend, we read it was a book then, but now it's an audio download because it's easier. When he read the book, it was just like, yeah, this is me. This is exactly who I am. This is what I do. This is how I talk to myself. This is how I think about myself. This is my symptoms. So he was just so excited. We just had to get the money together, beg, steal and borrow. And we did. But we were very poor because when your husband has worked for 23 years, even though I'd had good jobs myself, it's still hard. It's still really tough. We were really, really poor when it first happened because I just had a baby and left work, and he had a business of which he lost. And, it's hard times for us. So although I've not had ME, I really get how people suffer. It's just horrendous. It's horrible. It's the most horrific thing. And it's not taken seriously, chronic fatigue or ME. It's not given people aren't taken seriously. It's just like, we've done all the tests. We can't find anything wrong. It must be chronic fatigue. Off you go. Here's some antidepressants. Here's some painkillers. And the suffering for families and for the person who's got it, it's just horrendous, especially if they feel like they're making it up. I mean, my husband used to say, it's so embarrassing. Why do I have to get an old lady's disease? And I'm a man. Why do I have to get, he was just embarrassed to be so ill. And a man's supposed to be out supporting his family, be working and all that stuff, And he was just embarrassed to be ill and wouldn't want to talk about it. But it's hard. It's really hard, especially when children get it, A lot of children, when they go up to senior school, 11, 12-year-olds get it. The next point is when they go to university. That's a time for ME. So it's all like big stress times in people's lives. Often it comes up for kids at those ages. So, yeah.
As you say, it's a very, very expensive illness, isn't it? It's expensive financially for the state. It's expensive for a family, and massively expensive on your mental health, your physical health, and just loss of life. So, right, we have a question here. Sandy Cotty, hello, Sandy. Wanted to know more about. Can you see the comments, Julie?
No, I can't.
No, okay. Sandy attended an amazing presentation by Phil Parker at an international LP conference, and she's considering doing the training to add to her skill set. And then she says, what are the ways she can do the training? And then there's part 2, which is, if you do the training, can you then use this as part of your practice? Is there a recognised qualification? Do you have to pay an annual membership fee to continue practice? And what does this entail in terms of continued learning and support?
Okay, so Phil does NLP training, and he's a great trainer. It's fantastic. I go when it's face to face. I go up and be a mentor, and he's training up in London and help the new students, which I love to do. That's part of our CPD. We have to jump through hoops for our CPD every year. I've just renewed my license, and it felt like a marathon. We have monthly clinical calls with Phil. Just had one last week. All around the world logs in at weird times, so we can all make it fair. we're in 22 countries. So we have to do a lot of CPD. We have a conference every year where Phil lectures, and I think on the next face-to-face one, I'm going to do a little section. So we have to have a lot of CPD. So he does NLP practitioner, that's your basic. Then he does NLP clinical diploma. And then once you've done those, and a master's and advanced clinical diplomas, once you've done those, which take about 2 years, you can then apply for the lightning process training. And the lightning process training, it's a yearly license fee. I've got a clinical diploma, so I have letters after my name for NLP and coaching. Lightning process is his own, teaching method. It's positive psychology, it's NLP, it's coaching. With a little bit of osteopathy in there because he's a doctor of osteopathy. So the NLP are recognised, qualifications. Lightning process is obviously very dedicated. But it's ongoing CPD. Every year we pay a license fee to keep our license, and then obviously we pay royalties to the lightning process for each person to keep up, because as you probably know, research is really, really expensive, and the only people that do actual peer-reviewed research are drug companies because they can afford it. But we do have a research department, and all the royalties go to research, because if we've had things, published in the Lancet, in British Medical Journal. Phil's a PhD now because he lectures at the Metropolitan University. He did a PhD in using the lightning process for addiction. So that took him 7 years to do that. So if we can get these research papers published and people take it seriously, we can help more people. So all of our fees go back into the research, which is so expensive to actually do and to get published. It's just unbelievable. And the drug companies are obviously the ones that mainly can afford to do that. So to do independent research and have it peer-reviewed and published is expensive. So it's just to sort of further the cause and get as many people as possible helped. So that's with the lightning process practitioner, But I'd highly recommend his training. He's a great trainer, very engaging, very funny, nice bloke to go down the pub with afterwards. Yeah, it's the best. We always say, me and my colleagues, the best 3 years of our lives doing that training. We gelled. I'm still so good friends with people I trained with. You just all gel and work with each other and practice with each other, know all each other's deepest, darkest secrets and funny ways. Yeah.
I'm wondering also if, maybe sort of in my nursing past, we heard that things like the Falklands War and what happened in Northern Ireland really moved on plastic surgery because of the gunshot wounds, the burns, and COVID is going to have a big effect on these kind of illnesses because we've needed different care, treatment, being kinder to each other. And we have these sort of lines in the sand, don't we? After which nothing's the same again.
No, exactly. Yeah, definitely. So the boost to long COVID, and people are desperate because there is no help for them at the moment. And the clinics haven't really. I mean, UCLH are great, like for people on ventilators and stuff like that. I have to say, I've been really impressed. But the ME clinic, and so long COVID clinic, unless you're sort of been in intensive care, there's not a lot they can do. Maybe some CBT. That's it, really. Yeah.
Well, may I encourage you, Julie, to share something in the group every now and again, either blogging Tuesday, Free for Friday, or your links, but just let people know you're there.
Will do.
I know you're a busy lady, and you've got grandchildren, haven't you, and a dog and a husband?
Yes. Another business. I'm a business owner as well, and I fit all this in around my other business that work at weekends, work evenings. But I will say, do you know what? It's like a hobby because I do it for free to help people, because I didn't have to have a license, because it's just my passion work. You've got to have something that drives you, and it's always got to be to help others, hasn't it? And it gives you a reason and a dopamine hit for achievement. So it makes me feel good about myself, and I just love it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for coming to talk to us. Thank you for telling us what you're doing. Thank you.
It's been great. Thank you for listening. Yeah, thank you. And if you've got any questions, we could have a discovery call or just send me a message, and I'm always happy to answer any questions. or just for a chat. And even if we don't do the lightning process, it might just start in you a train of thought that actually helps you just feel better. And what people notice is as soon as they listen to the audio book, their energy starts to lift, their symptoms start to go, and they say, is that even a thing? And I say, yeah, that always happens. So just understanding how your body's producing the symptoms helps a lot. So even if you don't do the lightning process with me, let's just have a chat. So just think of another path that you might want to look at with someone else, not necessarily me, but it's just keeping your mind open, really. There are other things to look at than the standard things that you've been told.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you so much. Julie Derrick says, somebody says hi Julie, but I don't know who it is until you get off the page. Once we get back into Facebook, you'll see who everyone was who was commenting.
Okay.
Ladies, thank you all so much for joining us. Big thank you to Julie. Same time next week, ladies, 7:30 on Monday. We've got Janie Lee Grace coming, and we're talking about getting yourself in the spotlight because she's really good at that kind of thing. She's also very holistic. She's the woman who on Steve Wright in the Afternoon recommended the Bowen technique one day, which is about the woolliest therapy on the planet. I used to practice it, but she had a pain in her sacrum when she was pregnant, and she said one treatment and it went, and she said that on Radio 2. So maybe we ought to mention the lightning process to her, Julie. She'll get it on Radio 2.
Yeah, pick up the lightning process.
Well, I'll mention it to her when she's here anyway, though. Excellent. Thank you all so much.
Thank you,
so welcome. If you have missed most of this, then it will be in the guide section, as are all our interviews. And Julie, where can they find you?
So I'm Julie Willis Coaching on Instagram and on Facebook, and my website is juliewillis.co.uk. Nice and easy.
Lovely. So let's put those in the chat afterwards, and maybe you could just check out the messages when we get off the call, see who's there and say hello to them. That would be fabulous. Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you all. Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.